podcast that shines a light on the American justice system and its role in empowering the powerful to take from you. The justice system is the only branch of your government where an individual, rather than the collective, can make the system act for you. It puts power in the individual's hands, but it's broken and being used against you at a time when you need it most.
And we are live on Who Wrote That Up for You. Today is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. I'm Sonja Ebron, a co-founder at Courtroom 5.
And I'm Deborah Slone, the other co-founder at Courtroom 5.
Delightful show lined up for you today. First, let me make an announcement. Deborah and I, at the end of this week, are going to take some time off. We have had a great time with this podcast. I'll call it the first season of it. This Friday will be our 50th episode. So we've done this for 10 weeks at the end of this week, and it's time to just capture some of our learnings from the experience. So we're going to take about 3 weeks off, I believe, and we'll be back on that. Puts us at December 12th. So we'll expect you all to come back on December 12th, and we'll catch up at that time. But we will go through the end of this week. So as it turns out, Deborah, our guest for today had an unfortunate delay in court and will not be able to join us. I want to take that opportunity. I've been wanting to just chat for a bit about some of the pro se litigants in the news these days. And so there are some just interesting experiences that have been broadcast widely. And so I think it's timely for us to chat about a few of them, a couple of them at least. So we'll take that opportunity to do that. But before we get there, Deborah, what's on your mind today? What is our issue of the day?
The issue of the day is basically the government making money from situations that they feel is illegal. Put it that way. For a long time now, for ages, it's been settled law that that municipalities can, states and municipalities can tax behavior even if it's criminal. So they can tax if you make money from criminal from if you make money from criminal behavior, the government wants a piece, even though it's criminal behavior and they shouldn't get a piece. But anyway, I specifically want to highlight New York's black market on weed. New York marijuana. New York legalized marijuana use for adults more than a year ago. But what they haven't done is they haven't dispensed licenses to sell it. And so people are already selling it and they're making millions and millions of dollars. And New York kind of wants a piece of that because, they're a municipality and they want a piece of that. But the problem is there's also an additional problem of them having jailed people for this very thing, for either selling or smoking marijuana. And so they're trying to do two things at the same time now. Free people who, or expunge the records of people who who've been arrested for minor marijuana possession and that kind of crap, which should not have been, should not have happened in the first place. But they're also trying to figure out how they're going to get their money back, how they're going to get some of this money, because they feel that it is illegal to sell if you don't have a license, but they kind of want to ignore that part so they can get their money. So they're kind of being they're being a little sneaky about it, where they want their money. Damn it! And so
That is hilarious. I would think that states and municipalities would simply take the money that is derived from criminal activity. I know that's something that they try to do through some of the RICO statutes and the RICO seizures. There, just take it. But I'm surprised that they would actually tax it. It seems to me, I'm not. This is way above my pay grade, but certainly it just seems to me that if you tax something, the presumption is that it's legal,
Mm.
right? I don't, yeah, but apparently not. Apparently not. I have been bothered to no end by the drive to decarcerate people who have been charged with these very minor offenses. This ought to be a traffic ticket. As you say, the use of marijuana, a natural substance, should never have been decriminalized, should never have been criminalized, right? And for minor possession of it, there's just no need to incarcerate people for that. And we've had people serving long sentences, having their lives ruined as felons for minor possession of marijuana.
Right.
I would like us as a culture, as a society, to just really draw a line under decarcerating those people, pardoning them as necessary, and repairing the lives ruined over that stupid policy.
Right.
Just stupid. This is not the way. I'm not gonna go off here, but this is just, it's not worthy of any kind of civilization in my sense. And obviously, we know that there were racial and class issues underlying those policies, but it was just stupid. This is just not the way to run a society. And
Exactly.
so, as we move forward, as we now want to create a economy around these drugs, the least we can do is recognize the error there first, right?
Mm.
It's almost like we want the money. We want to now sell legally, right, and tax these sales, as you say. But then, oh, wait, just a minute ago we were locking people up, so let's go fix that.
Mhm.
Partly, and that's not the way we want to. That's not the way we want to operate. Let's fix that first. Then have the conversation about developing an economy around these substances. And so, anyway, that's yeah. Thank you for bringing that up and to our attention. Who wrote that up for you is sponsored by Courtroom 5. At Courtroom 5, we believe the courts belong to the people, in particular to the people who use them. And we, the people, are coming to claim our courts. And so if you are in court without a lawyer, or you need to sue someone and can't find a lawyer to represent you, get yourself over to courtroom5.com. Try a limited version of our services for free, and we hope to provide some relief for you there. Debra, let's jump into your quiz. Who won yesterday's quiz, and what do you have lined up for us tomorrow?
We have a winner from yesterday. This was a fill in the blank. The blank stage is where defendants explain why they're not liable. The choices were complaint, trial, appeal, and answer. Of course, it is the answer stage where a defendant would submit an answer and affirmative defenses to explain why they are not liable for whatever damage. And the winner is Karen S.
Congratulations to Karen there.
And today's quiz. In the lawsuit, this is the last part of it. In the lawsuit, Kelsey filed against Dr. Fig Newton for medical malpractice. The case has been set for trial. At trial, who has the burden of proof? If you want to participate in today's quiz, send your responses to quiz@courtroom5.com.
That's a nice and simple quiz. Hoping to see a winner on that one. That's fantastic. So I want to take the opportunity, Debra, again, to first remind people that we're going to take a few weeks off at the end of this week. And so next week, the week after, and the week after that, we will not have a show. We will be back with season 2 on December 12th. right? And again, we'll keep the same cadence here, the same pace, but we will just rework things a little bit and come back with a better, even better show. But I want to take this opportunity today to just chat about some pro se litigants in the news. We've had the case of Darrell Brooks in particular has been on my mind. And this is the young man who drove his car through a Christmas parade, I believe it was, in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He killed 6 people in that act and injured many, many others, some serious injuries there. Children, uh, old people, right, who were just out to enjoy a Christmas parade in the small town of Waukesha, Wisconsin. And this madman drives out of nowhere and just plows through them. As it turned out, according to the evidence at trial, he'd had a fight with his girlfriend. There was some domestic violence involved there, a long history apparently of it. And he was mad and just, he blew his horn and just instead of waiting for people to get out of his way, just plowed through the parade and killed people. And it was a
Mm.
horrible, horrible act. At any rate, he was soon arrested, I believe, arrested that evening, and has been in jail ever since. He was just convicted a week or two ago, I believe. The sentencing testimony is happening. Sentencing phase is happening now, but he decided to represent himself in that case. There were multiple murder charges, and you can imagine the charges levied against him for such evil behavior. And at any rate, he declined, assistance of counsel that the state was willing to provide for him, and decided to represent himself. His primary defense was that he was a sovereign citizen, that the court did not have jurisdiction to hear any claims against him, and as we know, those defenses are generally ridiculous, and he was soundly convicted and rightly convicted.
This comes from my file of things that make pro se litigants lose. It's not representing yourself is not on that list, but the number one thing on that list is false bravado, where people spout out things that they don't know anything about, but they heard something somebody said, and they're just gonna take that to court and pretend as if that's the law. And so this is basically what he did: the false bravado. Oh, I know what jurisdiction is. I know what jurisdiction is. I know what sovereign citizen is. I know admiralty law. All that stuff. Those are the kinds of things that make pro se litigants lose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had as an example, and I want to get into his case a bit more and his defenses, but to your point, there are lots of pro se litigants in the courts. To be sure, most of us don't know what we're doing. We don't understand this system that is designed for lawyers, and we're not lawyers. And so we make tons and tons of mistakes, but the worst thing you can do is pretend you know, what you don't know. And you'll pay the
Mhm.
consequences of that. This gentleman is certainly an example of that. But by way of contrast, we began this season with Brian Vukadinovich, who does know what he's doing in court. He has a book on it, in fact, and has been handling his business capably in court for decades now.
Mhm.
Right? It takes that sort of experience to be in court without a formal legal training. We spoke a few weeks ago with
Shepherd.
Gwen Shepherd, who had taken her case it was prepared to take her case to civil trial before the state, her municipality brought a criminal case against the person who was liable for her harm. And
Mhm.
then just last week, we had
Bernice.
we had Bernice Smith, whose daughter died from medical malpractice, and because the daughter had been ill, the potential damages would be limited, and she couldn't find a lawyer to take on that case on contingency basis. And so she took it upon herself and drove a favorable settlement in that case. And so you do have people who are able to capably represent themselves in this very difficult system without the nonsense that we hear from sovereign citizens. And I hate to be harsh on that, because I think there are people who are sincere, who find sovereign citizen theory or whatever of the law compelling, but that is out of ignorance, right? That is because they don't know. This is based in admiralty law, which might at one time have applied for people at sea. But if you are in Waukesha, Wisconsin, it does not apply. And the basic notion there is that the court doesn't have jurisdiction over this person. Oh, my name is spelled in all caps, and you can't just you can't just call
Mm,
me, Darrell Brooks with any lowercase letters. I'm not that person. That kind of nonsense, right? The court doesn't have jurisdiction because I don't even know why. And
yeah,
let me just, for people who have confusion about this issue of jurisdiction, let me just, from a layman's perspective, again, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding on jurisdiction here is that it has a dual purpose. It speaks to a place, and it speaks to power, enforcement power. And so, for instance, if you have a property in Waukesha, Wisconsin, for instance, and there's a question about who the title belongs to, right? The court over in that county is the one with jurisdiction over that property and can determine who has the jurisdiction, who has the title to that property, right?
exactly.
And the fact that they can just in writing with a pen change the title owner is the power necessary to their jurisdiction. That's all you need. You need place, right? So if a crime occurred in Waukesha, Wisconsin, the court in Waukesha, Wisconsin has jurisdiction over who's guilty of that crime. And the fact that Mr. Brooks was forced to sit before her, often in jail clothing, with handcuffs and shackles to the table, the fact that the judge was able to have bailiffs physically remove him to another courtroom when he got out of hand in front of her, um, is the power, right? That demonstrates her jurisdiction, or that court's jurisdiction.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely. She had the authority to do all that,
she had it.
and
She
that's
had it.
jurisdiction.
That is all you
Yeah.
need for jurisdiction. He,
Mhm.
he, he committed that crime, according to the jury, in that place, and she had the power to enforce a sentence. And so they're going to sentence him because he has been found guilty of multiple murders, right? Premeditated, if I recall correctly. And so she is going to sentence him to a significant period in prison. I believe it's a mandatory life sentence, if I'm not mistaken there. And so, he will spend a significant period of time in jail. Now, he has the right to appeal. That may even be automatic. And so we'll see what the appellate court says there. He certainly objected all throughout the trial. And so maybe one of those hundreds of objections will get him a new hearing. I sincerely doubt it, but I'm not a lawyer, and certainly not an appellate lawyer. He'll have his day. He'll have another day in court for sure on that. But the issue of jurisdiction, it really doesn't get complicated. If something happens in a particular place and the court exercises power, that's the end of the matter, right?
Mhm.
That is the jurisdiction required there. So at least
Yeah.
to hear the case. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially if that doesn't come early and in writing.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
challenge the court's jurisdiction early in writing, you have some support in the law
right.
or in a statute. Okay, let's talk about it. But if you're in the middle of a case, the judge has already locked you up,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
there's
exactly.
some jurisdiction in there
There's
somewhere. So
jurisdiction of that court,
yeah.
and I can hear some lawyers arguing with me now about the issue of subject matter jurisdiction. So, for instance, there
Mm,
are courts of limited jurisdiction, and so you can't hear a foreclosure case if there's a court that hears only those cases. You can't hear that in traffic court, or you can't hear that in general. That's fine. We get that, but the court as a body in that county would have jurisdiction over all the things that happen in that county.
absolutely.
If there's an authority and an enforcement capability to do that. So
So the purpose of us doing this is so to help other people avoid arguing these kinds of cases, because at the end of the day, you're if you haven't been to court on something, and you're gonna, okay, I have this idea of doing admiralty law, or sovereign citizens, don't I it's not a good idea. And it's a losing, it's really a losing cause. It's false bravado, and it's one of the things that make pro se litigants not only lose, but lose really bad.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The courts, people need to understand the courts, and are designed for lawyers to operate them. They are managed by lawyers, and they're ruled on by lawyers. They are very, very complex, and lawyers go to graduate school. They go to graduate school, right, to be able to navigate those systems, to learn what's necessary to be able to do that. And if you don't have that education, you can't expect to as easily navigate it. Going to Google and searching for, terminology or sample filings and what might appear to be similar cases isn't going to do it. Isn't what you want to do. There, you do need to educate yourself, and that information is available, right? But you have to take your education seriously before you step into court talking nonsense, as it turns out. And I say that with a great deal of humility. I don't want to ridicule people, because Deborah, you and I both have been guilty of everything we're condemning here.
Yes.
False bravado, as you say, thinking we know something.
Yeah.
Okay, thinking these initials behind our names mean that we can do this or that. Nah,
Opposing counsel, what a crazy argument they
right,
made.
right.
You know.
Yeah, that doesn't fly. Okay, it doesn't fly.
Yeah.
So we're speaking from quite negative experience as well as positive experiences about about what you need to be able to step into court and handle your business. And again, you don't need to be as overly educated as Deborah and I are. Regular people. I think regular people, anybody can do this. You don't need formal education. You need to be able to read and write capably, certainly, but you don't need any kind of formal education to learn what you need to represent yourself in court. But you do have to do the learning
You put in the
nonetheless.
work. Yes, you
Got
got
to
to put
put
in
in
the
the
work.
work, regardless of your formal education. That's the truth there. Anyway, I just wanted to I wanted to take this opportunity to chat about that. It had been on my mind. There are some other folks in the courts now. I'm thinking Terry Summers. I forget where he is, who had kidnapped and raped his ex-wife, and they were going through some divorce proceedings or something like that. And he decided to represent himself too. He has likewise been found guilty, I believe, sentenced as well. And his arguments were not on the sovereign citizen tip, but just as
Mm.
feckless, I think, and unhelpful as those. And so, yeah. Plus, he's guilty. Right? That's underlying all of this is that you're guilty. Okay,
Yeah.
and juries, you can put up whatever defenses you can, but juries often see through that regardless. So, yeah. At any
Exactly.
rate, yeah, I think that those kinds of stories get in the news a lot. Other than the folks that we see, like Brian, Gwen, Bernice, many others, right, who are capably representing themselves in court. Certainly, we've gotten membership that has some successes as well, and want to
Yeah.
um, yeah, want to see those folks highlighted a little more than the nonsense that's out here, because as you
Well,
say, they
those
give
are.
us a bad name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Those are civil cases. I mean, those are criminal cases, which
Yeah,
they tend to be highlighted more than civil cases, unless we win a bunch of money. You know.
right, right. Yeah, that is true.
So there's a
That's absolutely
difference.
true.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I think I'd like for us to take up then in the next season.
All
But
right.
we'll chat about that. That's all we have for you today. Thanks as always for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Are you feeling beleaguered, angry, or afraid, as if things are spinning out of control and you're powerless to stop them? It's easy to just let things slide and hope they don't get worse. But they often do get worse. The thing is, you're not powerless. Our courts belong to us, and their purpose is to give power to the powerless. Don't let your grievances pile up without redressing them. You can handle this in court. Or, if someone takes you to court, you can take them to school.